Hello, everybody. I'm Riley Woodall, and welcome to the Toss-Up. It is our very first show of the 2023 season, and what better way to kick off the year than to talk about college football. This is it. A new era of IUSTV sports begins right now. Stick around because we have a great show for you coming up on the Toss-Up. Well, we all know there is nothing like college football, and this season is shaping up to be one of the best we have ever seen. So many questions on the table. Will Caleb Williams win the Heisman again? Will Georgia win the Natty? Will Alabama and Nick Saban miss the playoffs again this year? We're here to break that all down for you, and I'm joined by some amazing people here. Audrey Marr from the Hoosier Network, Noel Fary from WIUX, our very own Gabe Pontones, IUSTV Sports football beat reporter. My man, Joe Cronin, my co-host, is in the house too. Guys, thank you so much for coming in and talking some college football. It's finally here. Yes, we've been waiting so long. It feels like the preseason has gone on forever. Oh my God. We're going to jump right into it and talk about a team that has a lot of questions surrounding. It seems it's been that way the past few years. That's Indiana football. They host Ohio State on Saturday in Memorial Stadium. Audrey, they've named the starter, but we don't know who it is. Who's going to be starting quarterback for the Hoosiers on Saturday?
I have to go with Taven Jackson. I don't think you can hype up such a high recruit and not go with him. I mean, he was everywhere, basketball games, anywhere you could see on campus, and he was the most exciting thing IU football has seen in a very long time. I see that it is a toss-up, no pun intended, between Sorsby and Jackson. I wouldn't be surprised if Sorsby started, but I think, personally, it has to be Jackson.
No, I agree with you, Audrey. I think that getting Taven Jackson into IU was huge for the culture. A team that needs a shift in culture just because there's just not that much to be excited about these past few years. But to me, the fact that they haven't announced it yet tells me that it might be Sorsby. I think Sorsby is going to be in that starting spot because I think that's something you want to hype up if you're IU. Put it out there.
Yeah, I think Taven Jackson is going to be the starter, but you do have a point. They've been very quiet thus far. And the longer and longer this has gone on, the less and less surprised I'm going to be if Sorsby gets the start, honestly.
So we got 2 for Sorsby, 1 for Jackson. I'm going to toss it to my man Joe Cronin because I know you've got a little bit of a perspective on this, Joe. Who's going to start at quarterback for the Hoosiers on Saturday?
Yeah, Riley, this is an interesting quarterback battle to say the least. Both quarterbacks have not had much experience in the college game. Sorsby saw one game of action where he only threw 6 passes against Penn State last season and only played 7 games in his senior year of high school due to injury. With Taven Jackson, you know, he sat that year at Tennessee. That was a loaded quarterback room. Hendon Hooker, who's now backup quarterback of the Detroit Lions, and Joe Milton, the current starting quarterback for Tennessee. I think Taven Jackson has that competitive edge in high school. You saw him go 14-0 in his senior season. That was highlighted by a pretty stout defense, but I think Jackson, with that 6'5 frame, he's going to provide something with this offense that head coach Tom Allen wants to see.
Well, we'll transition away from a position that has a lot of questions to a player that has a lot of expectations. Guys, probably the best player that Indiana football has on the roster is Jalen Lucas, All-American, kick returner last year. Gabe, I'm going to go to you. Yep. What can we expect from him?
We're going to expect a lot of greatness. We can expect that. He's a phenomenal return man, and I know the Hoosiers are going to have him in at like the wide receiver position. I just hope they don't abuse him in the wide receiver position because they need a return guy. They need a really good return guy. Just because, you know, in the past the offense just hasn't really cooked a whole lot. But I think with him on the roster at the wide receiver, I think he can do some damage. I think he can do some serious damage, and I'm excited for this fall to see what he can do.
Hey, man, speed kills. And this guy is fast.
Yeah. Oh my God.
When you have a guy who is as dynamic as he is, it's great to have him at that return man position, but you need more out of him. You need to get him involved on offense. And I think if you utilize the speed properly, it's going to be dangerous.
My question is, can they? You know, I mean, you bring up a good point. It's like they have the talent there, but can they? Audrey, go ahead.
I think they can. I think with the additions that they added to the offensive side this season, I think with Christian Turner, Josh Henderson, I think he will be utilized in the best way he can. I don't know if we'll know the best way that he will be utilized this season until at least week 3. And I think once they test out these first 3 games where everyone fits, it's not just Jalen Lucas that they have to test out. I mean, I think he will definitely exceed expectations this year, even though he has high expectations for him. But I think they will utilize him in the best way that they can, and we'll find out after week 3.
23, I believe, new faces on this IU roster. A lot of turnover for the Hoosiers. Who is a new face and a big offseason pickup that you guys seeing having an immediate impact and probably the biggest impact on their season?
To me, I have to go Andre Carter. I mean, to be able to come in and get a pass rusher with the prowess that he has, an immediate game changer. Already you think maybe this is the best guy we have on defense off the rip. Can disrupt everything that offenses throw at them. It's a bright spot. I'm looking forward to him.
Yeah, I think Andre Carter is a big name, but I think a name that hasn't been thrown around a lot, which I find surprising, is E.J. Williams, transfer from Clemson. I think
weapon.
This might be a hot take.
Absolutely.
This might be a hot take, but I think that he is at the wide receiver 1 spot instead of Cam Camper. Because Cam Camper isn't 100% healthy. I mean,
coming with some fire on the first episode of the toss-up.
He is not 100% healthy. I think that if E.J. Williams gets the chance, his talent will be showcased tremendously throughout the season, I think. I mean, he was catching one-handed catches from Trevor Lawrence in the ACC championship in his freshman season. I mean, that may be just way too high of expectations for him coming in, but I think that he will definitely be really good for this Indiana offense.
They need it.
They do.
They really need it.
Well,
Gabe, what do you think?
I got somebody who's also kind of flown under the radar, and that is Noah Boltikoff. He is an offensive lineman, played at TCU last year, and as we all know, TCU made it to the national title game. And it all starts up front. So when you bring in a piece from a unit like that, that can bring so much aid and so much support to an O-line that has just been so bad over the years. I think he is going to have amazing contributions to give. I'm excited to see what he does.
Well, you mentioned the offensive line, and I'm not going to talk about a player. I'll talk about a coach, Bob Bostad, coming in. I think that's going to be the big difference that this team needs, because even a phenomenal coach can make average players great. I truly believe in that, and that's where Indiana struggled for the past 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons. They haven't been able to protect their quarterback consistently, and on top of that, they haven't been able to create running lanes. You know, so they have to be able to do that, and I think Bob Bostad's going to be perfect for that. But again, it's a wait-and-see game. It always is. I'm going to bring JC back in here for our last question before we go into a new segment that we got. How many Big Ten wins do you see IU having this season? Who and why? I know it's a bit of a loaded question, but what do you got?
This is interesting because I don't know if I'm optimistic or pessimistic here, saying the ceiling is 3 wins. And I think one guaranteed, I might say guaranteed, is Rutgers. If there's any team more of the bottom of the barrel of the Big Ten, it's Rutgers. I think the other two, I think they can grab Illinois on the road. That's a tough battle. A bit of a rivalry, close in proximity to each other. And the third, I think Michigan State at home. It's late in the season, and Michigan State last year looked like as big of a fluke as 2020 IU did.
Well, thanks, Joe. It's time for Precarious Predictions. It's a new segment we have on the show this year. We're going to be predicting the biggest games of the 2023 college football season. I'm going to go down the line through all the panelists, and they're going to give me their knee-jerk response. Audrey, I'm starting with you. A Week 1 matchup that we are not going to have to wait very long for. LSU at Florida State.
I'm really excited for this matchup. I have to go with LSU. I think Brian Kelly will really turn the team around. I don't know. Well, I think Florida State is definitely a high contender into doing very well this season, but I have to go LSU.
Noel, September 9th, Texas goes on the road to the Alabama Crimson Tide.
High on Texas, low on Bama. Give me Texas.
Gabe, Ohio State travels to South Bend. Be careful, Buckeyes fans.
Oh, man. You gave me a hard one. I do think the Buckeyes are going to take this, but I would not be surprised if Notre Dame comes out and wins. I mean, they're at home, but still give me the Buckeyes.
Joe, you've got Florida State at Clemson. Who you got?
Riley, I like Jordan Travis and the Seminoles in this one. I mean, Clemson, they're a little unproven from last season.
And then Oregon at Washington. Bo Nix versus Michael Penix. One of the best quarterback matchups we're going to see this season. Who you got?
Absolutely. I'd say the second best quarterback matchup all season long. I think Michael Penix and company get it done. They're going to be a good team this year. Watch out for the Huskies.
Gabe, I'm going back to you. You got another Ohio State one. Penn State goes to the horseshoe.
To the shoe. Honestly, both of these teams are so good that I'm going to give it to Ohio State just because they're at home. If this was a whiteout game at Penn State, I might give it to Penn State, but I'm going to take OSU again.
Noel, the rematch from last year's double overtime thriller, LSU at Alabama.
I got to stay consistent. Give me LSU. Give me the returning starting quarterback.
Audrey, probably one of the most anticipated games in the late game stages of the season. Michigan goes on the road to Penn State. Maybe in the whiteout, we don't know yet, but who you got?
Whiteout, it'll be close. Either way, I'm going with Michigan. I think it'll be too hard to stop J.J. McCarthy and Blake Corum.
You have another quarterback matchup, USC at Oregon. Caleb Williams versus Bo Nix. Who's coming out on top?
I'm saying USC. I have them in my national championship pick. I think that Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams, I think that they'll definitely adjust to being a better team this year and too hard to stop.
Noel, the back-to-back national champions in the Georgia Bulldogs at Tennessee.
How could I not pick the back-to-backers? Give me Georgia over Tennessee.
Gabe, close us out. It's the game. It's the game that everybody has circled on their calendars, the game that everybody watches. Ohio State, the Buckeyes in the big house. Ohio State versus Michigan. Michigan all the way. Well, there you have it. Those are our predictions for the 2023 college football season. The biggest games coming up. I'm so looking forward to everything that is in store this season. Let us know if you agree down in the comments below. When we come back, we talk everything about the future of college football and answer some of the biggest questions surrounding the sport. Don't go anywhere, folks. Welcome back to the College Football Show. We have one final segment before we end the show this week. It's called Who You Got? I've got 6 big-time questions about this college football season, 2 for each of the panelists, and they have 30 seconds to give me their knee-jerk response. Audrey, I'm coming at you with a heater right off the rip. If Georgia wins the national championship again this year, does that make Kirby Smart a better college football coach than Nick Saban?
No. I mean, Nick Saban is the best college football coach in the nation. I think.
Facts.
Give it a couple years. I think Alabama lost their biggest weapons in these last couple years, and Georgia took their place. I think now that Georgia lost some of their weapons, I think Bama has the potential to take back their spot. And if Georgia does come out and is as good as they were in these last couple seasons, then that can be up to discussion. Right now, no.
Noel, a simple question, not a very simple answer. Who wins the Heisman?
To me, it's not that hard of a question. I think it's Caleb Williams. I think he'll go grab it, and he's giving me Patty Mahomes vibes. It's just overall in the way he plays. Marvin Harrison Jr. close on his tails. I'll say that. Devonta Smith opened up that door, but give me Caleb Williams.
Gabe.
Yes.
Colorado.
Yes.
What can we expect from Neon Deion Sanders?
Well, aside from every single safety or corner high stepping into the end zone after the pick 6, I do expect a more defense oriented team. I mean, that's the bread and butter of Deion. He's all defense. I'm not saying their offense can't be great, but I think the defense is going to be their strength, but I still think they're going to be a good team. I would say expect like a lot of 17-14 final scores.
Joe, will Alabama miss the playoff again this season? Will Saban be denied?
I think Saban is getting denied for the second straight season. I mean, last year was supposed to be the year that they were good with Bryce Young in his final year at Alabama, and there's some quarterback uncertainty at Alabama, and that's where really all the teams start.
Noel, back to you. Will Texas or Oklahoma win the Big 12 title for their final year in the conference?
Give me the Longhorns. Give me Texas returning their starting quarterback.
Horns down, man. Horns down.
Give it to me. Give it to me.
They say they're back every year.
Oklahoma, the defense, I just didn't like it last year. Give me Texas this year.
Audrey, to close it out, a very loaded question for you. Who is the best player in college football?
I'm stuck between 3. I have to say Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Blake Corum. Marvin Harrison Jr., I don't think his talent will be showcased as well this season with Kyle McCord. Maybe a hot take. But Blake Corum, obviously injured last season. I think he'll be coming out. If he wasn't injured last season, he could have won the Heisman. I think he has the same potential for this season. But right now, I have to say Caleb Williams, high potential to win the Heisman this year, and I think he will. But Blake Corum, definitely hot on his tail.
Well, we can sit here and debate about it all we want, but not for much longer. Starting this weekend, finally, the 2023 college football season is here. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Joe, you as well. That's going to do it for us this week. Be sure to follow our new Instagram and Twitter at The Tossup to catch every take, every debate, and much, much more. Evan, this one's for you. With that, there's one thing left to do, so toss it up. Find out if we'll catch it, and we'll see you next week.
Good job.